My name is Michael, and I am a metalhead. I love all kinds of heavy metal and hard rock, from Abbott to Metallica to Snow White. I also enjoy a wide variety of other bands, including Fish, The Smiths, and Meatloaf, but I always find my way back to secular music. I wanted to challenge myself to listen to something Christian, so I decided to give Stephen Curtis Chapman's Declaration album a listen and write about it because it's so different from what I'm used to listening to. This album was released in 2001, and looking at it with a 2020 mentality, it's easy to see that it's definitely a product of its time. There are references to Regis Philbin hosting Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and the music has a very post-grunge sound, similar to secular bands Live, Matchbox 20, and Third Eye Blind. The opening track, Live Out Loud, sounds like a Christian version of Life is a Highway. The following two tracks, This Day and Jesus' Life, continue the rocking tone and start the album off to a good pace. But instead of going track by track, I'm going to discuss a few standout songs and the general feel of the album. No Greater Love slows things down a bit and has an interesting inspiration. In 1956, a group of evangelical Christians attempted to contact a native Ecuadorian tribe to spread the word of Jesus. The group, consisting of Jim Elliot, Nate Saint, Ed McCauley, Peter Fleming, and Roger Youderian, attempted to make contact with the Waorani, a native tribe with a reputation of being vicious killers. The Waorani speared the missionaries to death. 2 years later, in 1958, another group of missionaries were able to make peaceful contact with the tribe, learn the language, and bring them translated Bibles. Minkai Nkedi, the tribal leader, accepted the gift of Bibles, learned from them, and became a preacher and elder in the newfound Waorani Christian Church. Nate Saint's son, Steve Saint, was a baby at the time of his father's death, but once he turned 10, he lived with the Waorani people. Minkai, as he is referred to, felt a personal responsibility in raising Steve, because Minkai was the one who actually killed Steve's father, and he adopted Steve as his tribal son. They have spoken at several conferences together discussing their relationship and challenges they face. The music for the song is fitting, as it is a slow-paced acoustic ballad which ends with Minkai doing some tribal chanting. No Greater Love flows directly into God is God, another spacey-sounding slow song with the London Philharmonic Orchestra providing an orchestral background. A few readers may recognize the London Philharmonic Orchestra as the orchestra that provided the soundtrack to the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. There is some tribal chanting in the background, reminiscent of the previous track. See the Glory picks things up to a more upbeat sound again. A Nintendo-sounding 8-bit riff opens the track, which then morphs into a guitar-driven rocker. There are a few more 8-bit sound effects thrown into the song, specifically a coin effect after the chorus. The entire breakdown is an 8-bit interpretation of the main riff. When Love Takes You In is a ballad about how adoption is a life-changing and positive force for some people. This could be easily written off as indulgent and preachy, but Chapman puts his money where his mouth is concerning the themes of the song. In 1997, he and his wife adopted 3 children from China, which gives some credence to his message here. The music itself is slow, with Chapman playing a piano, being accompanied by the London Philharmonic Orchestra again. Savior is a fitting end to the album. It sounds like it was lifted from the soundtrack to a Disney movie, with a lone flute signaling the beginning of the song before the rest of the symphony makes its presence known. A lone acoustic guitar accompanies Chapman singing during the first verse, and the following verse and chorus feature the sweeping orchestra accompanying Chapman's singing. The lyrics are about searching for Jesus Christ, our Savior. The first verses are about people walking through confusing parts in their lives, unsure of where to turn, ultimately leading up to the final verse of Jesus being nailed to the cross as the Savior for all of humanity. The final 2 minutes are all orchestral, which really cements the soundtrack feeling of the song. I enjoyed the album more than I thought I would. It reminds me of the music I grew up listening to as a teenager in the early/mid 2000s. If I had heard this when it was first released, I can see myself trying to learn to play these songs on guitar. Jesus is Life has a bluesy guitar riff that repeats throughout the song, and God Follower features arpeggiated chords that sound fun to play. At first, I had a gripe that the songs are too direct with their message. There's no room for interpretation. What you hear is what you get without any subtle, hidden meanings. Several themes are touched upon throughout the album. Aside from the songs I discussed earlier, some of the themes are Don't Go Looking for Trouble, Desire to Be More Faithful, the stubbornness to try and tackle our problems without trusting God, and the fact that God has been around a lot longer than we have, and He ultimately knows what is right for us. While I thought this was a negative at first, I found some songs stuck in my head throughout the past few weeks, and they always seemed to pop up when I was in a situation where I was on my way to sin. Maybe God knows that a subtle slap to the face is exactly what I need at some points. If you enjoy music from the early 2000s and can handle the direct, no room for other interpretation messages of the lyrics, I highly recommend Declaration.